That's right, Dave Petzo. Dave Petzo joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning here. Up and Adam ready to go. Dave Petzo, Petzo Center, Petzo Financial. Money Matters here on KIDO Talk Radio. We're going to let you start. Anything that we should be looking out for. I have a lot to go over. By the way, you can join Dave now, 580-5436, 580-KIDO.
Nothing to watch out for, just same old right now. It's all about trade, the trade talks, and whether China capitulates, because I don't believe that Trump will, and they have to save face, and I know they're in the long game, and the Chinese are going to win at this. They're not going to win. They're not going to win. Or they're going to dump our bonds. You just name all the things that all the doom and gloomers have been talking about for years, and the reality is that none of that's going to happen, and I think that they, in the end, are going to figure out a way to sign a deal with the United States and move on.
All right. Nothing else you want to share with us, because we're ready to go here.
I'm a little nervous, Kevin. You've been spending some time this weekend getting fired up on the business side. So,
indeed. Let's start locally. A story from the Statesman last week: 75 new homes for every 100 new households. Treasure Valley facing a severe housing shortage coming up. Really, not much we can do about it. You have Star saying no, or the developer saying no to 1,500 new homes. You have the people in Eagle saying goats could run the city more effectively than the current city council, the current mayor. We're seeing more and more cities and areas struggling with the growth.
Yeah, they are. No doubt. And when people are moving into the valley so quickly, you have good economic activity, but you also have negative lifestyle things. And right now, the growth is really tough for us to handle. And I think it is hard on the cities. There's no doubt in my mind that it is. But we've seen Boise continue to raise taxes. I'm sure the other cities, I know Meridian's been talking about it. But the tax rates the mill rate itself has been going much, much higher. And so not just property values pushing those taxes up, but we're apparently wanting to play catch up to really low tax states like California. And that, I think, is going to push back on housing as well, because it simply is part of the ever-rising cost of housing is how high those taxes are going to be layered on top.
Right, and we're seeing that in Nampa with impact fees going up, Meridian already having their impact fees going up. Then we have a story recently where the housing is blowing up, more people are moving here, but the wages haven't kept up pace. Dave Petzo, you've been talking about this as long as I've known you, this affordable housing. We're not talking about cheap homes. We're talking about homes here in the Treasure Valley. In fact, there's a program called the Boise Boys, and it's on HG television. It's by it profiles two young men. We've had them on the program. It's called Timber and Love. It's a real estate company, and they were talking about starter homes in West Boise. Yeah, a starter home, $200,000-$300,000 for a first home. I don't know what world people are living in, but we have these wonderful homes, and we have people in Idaho. It's been going on for about 3 or 4 years, not being able to afford to get in them.
Yeah, it's true, and it is becoming a much more expensive market. It's very inexpensive compared to California, and that's part of our problem. You have the exodus of people from California. Just spent part of the weekend with some folks from California talking about that very problem. For example, in the area in California they're in, which is near the Bay Area, is about $120,000 a year is the poverty level, Kevin. Poverty, $120,000. And you think about that and imagine that translating here. So they leave, come here and find a $200,000 or $300,000 starter home. To them, it is very, very inexpensive. It's just that it's tough for people to get that down payment and get started.
Right, but you take a look at what we're going to do about it. Again, 1,500 homes not going into the community of Star. As someone who lives in Star, I will tell you that's a good thing. Now, people on the economic development side will say, not so fast, you're losing that revenue, but the infrastructure just still isn't there. So what is the role of local governments? What is the role of state governments to sit there? What is the role of ACHD in Ada County to do something about it? I had someone the other day talking about the jail in Canyon County. We all knew that was going down,
right?
Because it was Jim in Middleton said, hey, and Randy the biker saying, what have they been doing with all the money that has been coming in for all these people?
Exactly.
Where has that money gone?
Good for them. I agree with them. It's the same thing as schools. We just go, oh, my gosh, we need to build a new school. The schools are falling down. We need a bond right now. As if we can't plan 20 years ahead. We can't figure out that if there are a whole bunch of elementary school kids, that there might actually be a whole bunch of junior high and high school kids. They might equate each other. So we create a crisis in government. And it's really what politicians do. If you plan ahead, then you can't suck more money out of people. We need to work on a panic or a crisis basis instead of a thoughtful planning basis. So to me, government doesn't plan. It's like politics 101. The best thing you can do is create a crisis, and then you can go ahead and raise money that way. And you can get more and more and more money, which gives you more and more and more power. It seems to be the way government works to me. I don't know very many politicians that actually plan forward. I think that there are some, but by and large, Kevin, they don't. And as far as the decision-making process, I know I keep talking about this Americana deal, but to think about how many roads and bridges, anything that has to be fixed, expanded and all, to allow more cars through, what we did was we take all of last summer and obviously tens of millions of dollars to take Americana, a perfectly fine road, and take it from 4 lanes down to 2. Which obviously helps with traffic in order to have a bike lane. To me, that's the kind of decision that we go, that just makes your head spin or explode, however you want to think about it. But that's the kind of decision, instead of widening Shinden, and you might say that's a state highway, whatever, but you name another dozen projects that could easily have used that money and that time. And that's the kind of decision-making process that makes no sense to me. If you need a bike lane, expand the sidewalk, for gosh sakes. There's a lot of different solutions than to tear a whole road out and make it more narrow. It's like the idea of making Main Street right in front of my building. They've tried to do this twice, turn it from a 3-lane road into 2 with a bike lane. It's idiotic.
I take it you're not a biker.
I am a biker.
You ride the bike?
I do.
Right.
We like to ride
on
the
the
bike.
streets?
We from our house, yes, to the Greenbelt, yes.
All right, Dave Petzo, there you ask a question, get an answer. Phone number 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Getting back to this growth, you've got Eagle residents. They want their mayor recalled. They're tired of this. And I was driving around Eagle this weekend. Lots of land for development.
Yeah.
And to try and give the politicians a little benefit of the doubt. Who would have thought it would be blowing up, considering 6 years ago, it was the Great Recession.
It blew up. It did blow up in the other direction. Yeah. It's really something to drive around out there. It really is. And you're right. We need to catch up with infrastructure. Things have changed. You can't blame politicians for that. And not everybody's going to get what they want.
You just did.
I do blame them for dumb decisions, but I don't blame them for all of a sudden. 10 years ago, we're in total decline, and what we should have foreseen at that time was the rapid growth and built everything out. Of course, you can't do that, but they are here, and I think they need to make right decisions, and they're not. I don't blame them for the fact that the recession got ended, and we are moving forward so rapidly. But you're right, Kevin. It's been an amazing turnaround, particularly in Eagle.
Speaking of getting ready for new regimes, Mayor Beater is running for re-election. Looks like he's going to have a couple challengers. You have Mayor Tammy DeVere in Meridian, not seeking re-election. So you've got a few people running in there. We could see some major turnover. Most people believe that Mayor Beater will be re-elected. Maybe yes, maybe no. But people like you that live in Boise, that have businesses in Boise, have been very frustrated by, a few years ago he wanted to build a trolley, then embracing the bike lane people, and then ribbon cutting all the time, and the taxes continuing to go up. Could there be a change in the city of Boise? And then you've got Meridian, that if you talk to the people in Meridian or around Meridian, everything Meridian touches turns to gold, except the congestion that is strangling that great city as well. So, different leaders, different, changing of the guard. Could that impact our area at all, do you think?
Yeah, I think it could. I mean, you have different regimes that come in, and they have different ideas. Kevin, for example, that I really thought Butch Schroeder did a fine job as a governor, but in my mind, it's time. And I think that we need new ideas sometimes. And I don't mean new goofy ideas. We don't need new ideas like...
I don't think there's a lot of new ideas coming out of the State House.
AOC or something, right? I don't think we need new ideas that are stupid. But what we need is new people that come in that are not embedded. They're not embedded in the local area. And
you know who had a lot of new ideas?
Who?
Tommy Ahlquist.
Really?
A lot of new ideas.
Yeah.
That was a change that Idaho would have been on the right side for, my own personal opinion. That was change, but that didn't happen. So, I'm going back at you on your point. You look at Governor Little, great guy, works well. He's calling Garth Brooks. I'd rather have him call Donald Trump personally. I don't think our politicians should be entertainers, but when you have a Malia-led press corps, that's what you do. However, that's just more of the same.
Yeah. Well, it is not more of the same. No, it's not a good point.
Your point?
At all.
It's an extension of the Otter administration.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is at all. In fact, you and I have talked about this before, that it is, in fact, a different group of people and different administrators, and that's the key to any administration coming in. Are they going to just have the same people in there that actually run all these departments? And the answer is no. He's had new people as well as some of the old ones he kept, but interviewed all were fired, so to speak, and had to reapply for jobs. So I do think that there's been some interesting changes, and I think that a change of pace is always an interesting thing to happen, especially when you have somebody who's been there a very long time.
Look what happened to Congress. The Republicans out, the Democrats are in. That was a change of pace.
Yeah, and as I say, not all ideas are good ideas.
Well, I had a good idea. His name was Tommy Ahlquist.
Well, he didn't make it, though, Kevin.
Well, maybe next time.
Maybe next time's right.
More coming up with Dave Petzo. You're listening to Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Rolling right along, Dave Petzo with us. Want to thank so many people that came out to donate pennies. Thank you for coming out, by the way. You always support Miller's mission.
Well, I love the rescue mission, and I love you, so why wouldn't I do that? That's a hand in hand.
Now, this goes hand in hand with Petzoism. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
And this is, I think our whole Penny Patrol really is embracing Dave Petzoism's financial theory of success. You're always saying, don't buy the coffee, don't buy this. I mean, what could be more of a value to Dave Petzo than a penny saved is a penny
earned?
Yes.
That's right. Well, it's true. There is. I was actually thinking about that this morning. It's funny. I wasn't thinking about it on the Penny Patrol, but I was sitting there thinking about how if you will, how if you pay attention to the little things, how much money a person can actually put away. And so, thank you for that. Yeah, you're right. It is something we try to drum that lesson home to people, because our society gives us impression that, in order to get rich, you have to, be a rock star, or you have to invent something. You don't. You just simply have to put a couple bucks away. You don't have to even be an entrepreneur, Kevin, although most entrepreneurs are, most wealthy people are entrepreneurs. That's how they got there. But you're really talking about something that if a regular guy puts away, as we've talked many times, a cup of coffee a day, $5 a day for 40 years in the market, it's $1.2 million, actually over $1.2 million. That's a lot of money. You may not be able to fly on a private jet, but that's only at $150 a month. A cup of coffee. So if paying attention to the little things, and we talk about this about business as well, if you don't pay attention to the little things, the big things will slip up. And if you pay attention to the little things, big things take care of themselves, and you can save a lot of money.
Dave Petzo joining us. Okay, a couple stories here before we get to the 10 big Dave Petzo stories at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. New report out saying American soil, in other words, American farms, are increasingly owned by foreign entities. Are you concerned about that?
No, I'm not. I think
maybe the Chinese are buying our farms.
Well, I don't. Yeah, you know what concerns me is the transfer of technology to China. That's what concerns me greatly. The fact that they buy, say, ag companies, not farms, but ag companies with that have all the seeds and the genetics, and they take them and run with them, or buy them, or just steal them. And so this is a real problem for us, of course. But outside, if you will, foreign companies coming in and buying land doesn't trouble me at all.
We continue on, Dave Petzo. Let's take a look at some of these other stories. Number one, the trade war could shrink global output by $600 billion. You're talking about 0.5% off China's gross domestic product and 0.2% off the U.S. and the world as a whole, according to experts, if that continues in 2021. Does that impact 401ks? Does that impact people if the markets are off 0.5%, 0.2%?
No, it doesn't. That's the thing. It's We make news where news doesn't exist because you have to make up news every day, Kevin, and numbers are big. And so we talk about this. I say when we want to look at trade, the reality is we're now a year into a trade war, right? Is that a fair statement? We're into a trade war here.
The president has delayed for 6 months the tariffs that will hit the automobile industry for obvious reasons. New car, pre-owned car sales going through the roof, still very popular. Americans buying cars at record numbers. He doesn't want to mess with that before the election.
Correct. On top of that, though, we're talking about how many of those cars are Chinese? None. He doesn't want a trade war on multiple fronts. I think it's brilliant, actually, and to be okay. We're going to deal with the Europeans. They're great. That's fine. Let's deal with that later, and we're not going to worry about that because that's mostly where that comes from. It comes from them. It comes from Japan, but China has no imports of autos. So we got the new NAFTA is now is ready to go, and so we've got that deal. We've got Europe on hold. Right? We're doing nice with Japan right now, and all we're doing is focusing like a laser beam on China. But my point is this. If we're talking about trade in a trade war situation, we would think that was really, really super negative. But the reality is right now we have near record total trade globally. Near record total trade globally. That doesn't sound like a big old trade war. So the answer, Kevin, is numbers are big and projections are fine, and people are never right with their projections. The $600 billion will be more or less than that figure, whatever it is, and we will roll on and nobody will be held accountable. That's the way it always is. But we can always come out with lots of hyperbole about how it's going to cost billions and billions and trillions of dollars and this and that, and the world goes on. And
right.
We talk about those losses. But the reality, Kevin, is that we are near record trade,
sure.
And it will not kill the United States GDP.
Right, but if you hit tariffs on cars, I bet it does.
That's going to hurt. Does it kill us? No. Does it ding our GDP growth? Yes. And are we going to hit tariffs on cars? No, we're not.
Traffic and weather together. More with Dave Petzo next. KIDO Talk Radio. A little out of breath here. Good morning, Dave. KIDO Talk Radio. Kevin Miller in the morning. Let's continue on talking about a few issues that matter the most with Dave Petzo, and a couple more things. So in China, not that it really matters, they've seized a bank for the first time in 20 years. Are we essentially tied to the Chinese? If the Chinese markets start dipping, do we start dipping?
Yes and okay. If there's a big sell-off, if for some economic reason, global economic reason, the answer is yes. All markets are affected when the big countries of the world have something that's going to affect them because we all trade together, right? But the answer is we've had a real big disconnect. The Chinese market is not done well since the trade war broke out, and ours is up. So they don't operate in tandem at all.
All right, Dave Petzo, let's shift news to employment. What do you think as far as the outlook here in the Treasure Valley when we're looking at more jobs? The wages aren't where they should be. People still moving in. I mean, we've become, I don't know if you want to call it a vacation community for people retiring here from California.
Yeah.
What does that mean to our identity?
Well, I don't know if it's an identity crisis.
Wait a minute. It is. They're California plates.
Yeah.
They meet up at special places where they conspire to do California things.
Special places for California. Okay. All right.
I know of a few California groups that meet up. Some of them very good, very patriotic. Others, I need to keep an eye on.
I think Kevin, there's no doubt that our politics are changed. There's no doubt that you and I, we've talked about this a zillion times, that my Boise, right, I've been here for 40 years. My Boise's not, it's gone. It's gone forever. It's not going to be here. It's more crowded. It's more angry.
What has left Boise?
What has left Boise?
Yeah, you said it's gone.
Yeah, it is
They've all
gone.
moved to New Meadows with Tea Party Bob?
I think we're going to end up moving further and further out if you want to discover the old Idaho, right? And part of that is that, when people used to come here, they'd say, and I think they still do, because relatively we are the nicest place in the world. People here are truly nice. They look you in the eye and they are nice. They are nicer here than they are anywhere else in the world, and I feel that changing. It is changing. It's funny, just driving around now, how much more, as you always point out, how much more aggressive drivers are. They don't stop. They just, if they see an opening, they just fly right on in. I mean, like at a stop sign, they don't stop. It's a much more aggressive,
They do
different
that in
world.
California a lot.
They do. I'm saying it's changing, and so people are moving in. So what's changing, Kevin? People's attitude, people's pace of life. Slow it down. Build a wall between us and California. I like it.
But, again, I don't know if there's anything we can do about it. We've identified the issue.
Yeah.
And you have a lot of good people moving here from California, but it's odd. It really is odd when you look at it from the greater scheme of things that California, one of the greatest states ever, fourth largest economy in the world, is so bad that you have people fleeing it.
Yeah.
A lot of them coming here, a lot of them going to other Western states. But I don't know, culturally in our history, if we've ever seen anything like it.
Well, and to understand it is a really hard thing because you're really saying this doesn't work, so we're leaving it, and then we want to come here and vote to have the stuff we left. And you also have the people in California that are there that are continue to double down on stupid. They watch people leave. They watch businesses leave. They penalize businesses to stay. And what we need to do is we need to raise taxes more and have more regulation. It's insane. But they won't change because if you are political and you only are political, why would you want to change, Kevin? You don't change. You don't change your mind. Don't let the facts get in the way of your stupidity. I mean, you just sit there and make the same decisions over and over again. It's crazy.
Dave Petzo, catch him at the Petzo Center, Petzo Financial, and Saturdays, Money Matters, exclusively here on KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you.
Thank you.
KIDO Talk Radio, let's get you the information you need to start your day. Good morning, Maggie. And we go to Simon Owen joining us now, Fox News Radio, with the very latest on the elections throughout Europe, the EU elections. Simon, good morning.
Morning, Kevin.
Well, a lot of change people have thought about, a lot of unhappiness. What's the latest?
Yeah, change in some respects and a continuation of what was there before in others. These are elections that take place every 5 years all across the European Union for the European Parliament. This is the EU's own parliament. It's a slightly strange place. It's a parliament where something like a fifth of lawmakers who sit in it are actually committed to abolishing it. They are anti-EU in the kind of Brexit-style mold, but from all over the continent. And they've been sent there by anti-EU voters. That's one of the confounding aspects about the European Parliament. But it is powerful. It passes laws. It scrutinizes EU institutions. It might well be looking at an EU-US trade deal in the not-too-distant future. So it does have quite a wide reach. And with 420 million eligible voters, this is actually the world's second largest democratic exercise. So the elections have just happened. The results are in. A few takeaways, I think. There were gains for nationalist and far-right parties. They actually came out on top in Italy, Britain, France, and Poland. So, some really big European countries. People who are concerned about immigration and, EU overreach, too much Brussels in their own national governments went and voted for these parties. But the surge in support for these kind of anti-establishment outfits was not as large as some had predicted. And overall, pro-EU parties remain in control of this parliament. And there was also a spike in support for environment-focused green parties. So you've got kind of spikes in support on the left and the right. And what that means is that in the middle, the traditional centre-right and centre-left parties, a number of those took a real beating.
Does this impact the relationship with President Trump at all?
Hard to say. I mean, I don't think so, really. I think that's where you've got to look more towards who are the sort of individuals in charge of European countries, who are the presidents, chancellors, and prime ministers, rather than European MEPs. Normally, these members of parliament, they can be quite vocal and they can make a few sound bites, but on their own, they're not particularly powerful. What they do is when they get to the parliament, is they form alliances, because there's so many different parties. So, for instance, if you are a far-right leader in Austria, yes, you might have won a lot of seats this time round, although actually not in Austria's case, but say in Italy, if you're with the far-right in Italy, you win a lot of votes. you're still a pretty small fish when you get to this big pond in Brussels for the Parliament. So you form alliances with similar parties from other countries. So, there can be some fairly vocal blocs there. And as I say, the big thing in terms of relations with the U.S. is probably if there's going to be a U.S.-EU free trade deal, something that President Obama started work on. I'm not sure I see President Trump going for a deal where it's with, 27, 28 countries in one go. He seems to like trade deals with individual countries. But in the longer term, depending on who gets elected next in the United States, then, this is where the Parliament could step in when it starts to assess where this trade deal is going. Just one other note on this, Kevin. There's a lot of debate over here about the future of the EU. The Brexit vote is just one aspect of that, and other countries have, certainly got factions that reflect on whether EU membership is a good thing. Turnout for this election was at a 20-year high this time.
Well, maybe we'll have that here in America. Simon, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. Simon Owen joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. I do want to remind you, there is a concern that if you're looking at an Echo for Kids, that Amazon device that's for kids, well, the FTC is filing a complaint over the Echo for Kids. Another example of how Amazon is just encroaching on just every aspect of privacy. Amazon.com Inc.'s Echo.Kid digital personal assistant, did you know this, is collecting your kid's data without parental consent, according to privacy advocates. They're alleging in a complaint to the FTC. The product collects data on kids, including voice recordings, persistent identifiers, and other personal information. Now, this is in violation of the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, the Electronic Privacy Information Center, the Consumer Federation for America, the Center for Digital Democracy, and other privacy groups allege in their May 9th complaint. Now, a lot of people love Alexa, and you hear people saying, Alexa, play KIDO Talk Radio. Alexa, play this. Alexa, play that. But there is a drawback to it. And we take a look at our televisions and our laptops with the nice little cameras built in. Thankfully, our computers here are so old, we don't have the built-in cameras, so people can't see me being animated, whoever's watching us. But it should be a concern. These allegations should be taken seriously when we're looking at our kids and your own privacy, for that matter. Now, you're not going to hear that anywhere else because people want you to buy Alexa and Echo and everything else, right? KIDO Talk Radio, Kevin Miller in the morning. Remembering a Treasure Valley legend, Bill Buckner has died. Of course, the national media remembers him from his time with the Boston Red Sox. The Reverend Bill Roscoe joining us from the Boise Rescue Mission to offer a local ascent, a local remembrance of Bill Buckner. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Kevin. And what sad news we got. I got the news yesterday morning after a great week with you and out there doing the mission, collecting all those pennies, then to have it wind up being the sad news that Bill Buckner had passed away. And it's very sad news to us personally, but Billy was a sincere Christian man, and there's no doubt in my mind about his eternal future, and that's good news. To have that comfort to know that Bill has indeed gone on to heaven is a good thing. But boy, he was a great guy. I wish I had known him better. I wish I had spent more time with him. But Bill was one of those guys that was involved in a lot of things that people never heard of. He was a behind the scenes guy. He had all his years of baseball fame and glory and all that came with that. But in his time in Boise, he was really a behind-the-scenes guy, and he did so much for local youth athletics. He did a lot for a lot of different nonprofits, Christian and secular alike. But he was a very humble and quiet man about his charity, his philanthropy, his giving. Just a wonderful, wonderful guy, and I'm so glad I knew Billy. I wish I'd seen him lately. I haven't seen him since the holidays, and I kick myself now, of course, because when I last saw him in December, he looked pretty good. I knew he was sick. I heard he'd been really sick, and when I walked in the office and he was there and I saw him, I was pleasantly surprised. But he was very candid and told me that things didn't look good for him, and he was watching and waiting and seeing what would happen. But he was a great friend of the rescue mission, Kevin. He was always there for us as an auction item. We used to auction Billy off because he was a great hunter and fisherman, sportsman, athlete. And so we would auction off a hunting party for 4 to go with Billy Buckner somewhere and shoot ducks, or go with Billy Buckner somewhere and catch big fish. People loved to be with him. He had a great sense of humor. And his wife, Jody, and their family are just really top-flight people. And we're going to miss Billy a lot.
We were, and having gotten to know Bill Buckner and Jody Buckner through you, and I was recalling the story earlier that you introduced Jody to me during the first Miller's mission in 2010. And, what a lot of folks may not understand, and Reverend Bill, you've set the table for us perfectly. And I'm watching these national obituaries, and they focus on his great achievements in sports. But he meant so much to people working behind the scenes in the Treasure Valley, whether it was with the Boise Rescue Mission, whether it was helping folks with the Boise Hawks. I would recall seeing him at the Axiom down here on Park Center, the guy putting people 20 or 30 years his junior to whatever, because he was just so in shape and so working hard. And the guy, on a flight, he'd be back in business or coach with the rest of us. Just a wonderful man. The national tributes don't really understand and haven't really given the proper spotlight and attention to what Bill Buckner meant to the Treasure Valley.
No, I haven't seen those, Kevin. I read a few online, and I have to say I was pleasantly surprised at the tone of the ones I did see. But you're right. Bill lived here a long time, and I guess he came here to be a regular guy, because he sure was a regular guy. I played golf with him a couple of times, and to say that I played golf is an overstatement, but Billy was a golfer. I mean, that guy was an athlete, Kevin. He could do anything athletically, and I played golf with him once at a tournament. We were up at Shadow Valley, and I was just having a terrible, terrible round of golf. And he kept trying to coach me. The first 3 or 4 holes, he was, Bill, do this. Now wait, Rev, hold on, do this. And trying to coach me. And finally, after 2 or 3 holes, he just gave up. He laughed. He said, hey, just you're on your own, Bill. Do what you want. I was unteachable. But he had a great sense of humor. He could laugh with you. He could cry with you. He really cared about his family, Kevin, and I want people to know that Bill Buckner was truly a good family man. He loved his wife, his kids, and just lately in the last several years, grandkids. He loved them. He wanted to be with them and be around them and have a part in their life. And the same with youth generally. He built all that stuff out there, the ball fields out there when Bobby was in high school, his son. Billy did that. He raised some money from other people, and there were contributors, and that was great. But had it not been for him ramrodding that project, it wouldn't have happened. It's just a tremendous community-minded guy. And like you said, Kevin, he rode and coached, man. He was a good guy. I run into him at church a couple times when I visit his church, and he'd always take time out and find me and chat with me. And Jody, too. I love Jody Buckner so much. These were quality people. They are quality people. And gosh, I just wish I had more time with Billy these last few years, and I didn't. But I look forward to eternity with him in heaven.
And, just finally, when the turkey suit kind of started getting a life of its own, the Buckners invited us into their home. And I could just remember Bill Buckner staring at me, but he had such a great sense of humor. Now, what's this sweaty guy, this sweaty turkey doing in my home next to my wife? And I'm supposed to say what? But that was the type of individual that Bill Buckner was. And, people are, talking about his recent appearance with Larry David, but he did so much and continues to do so much. His legacy will live on, he and Jody, for people here in the Treasure Valley. That's why when I was watching these national things, I'm going, he had such a big impact on all of us here in Idaho.
He really did. And I think, Kevin, that a lot of what Billy did and was involved in, people don't even know, because he was behind the scenes quietly doing what he did to help and support and to fund different projects. People won't know it until we miss it, and then they're going to say, why isn't that happening? Well, maybe Bill was behind that, We'll miss him. I miss him already. My heart broke when I heard the news. I was so sad. But again, Kevin, it's like with all of us who know Christ and have faith in God, we're here for a short time, and then we go on to eternity. And for Bill, life has never been better than it is today, and that's good news for him. But for the rest of us, it's a sad day. It's going to be a sad week, and it'll take, for the family, my heart goes out to them. Keep them in your prayers. Pray for Jody and the children, the grandchildren. Just pray that God blesses them with that peace. And I know he will. I know Jody very well. She's a godly lady, served on our board. Bill served on our board for about a year and a half. And I remember when he quit, he said, Bill, you don't want me on your board. You want my wife on your board. And Jody was a great board member for several years. So we're going to miss him. We're going to miss him a lot. But God bless him, and thank God for him. Thank God for his life. And as you said, Kevin, there's a legacy here that will live on.
Our great friend, the Reverend Bill Roscoe, joining us from the Boise Rescue Mission. Reverend Bill, I know you're very busy, and God bless you. And want to thank everybody for bringing their pennies. We'll be counting them, but it was a great Miller's mission, and we've got a lot of pennies to count. And want to thank you once again for allowing us to be part of your mission.
Well, Kevin, you are a great part of our mission, and your listeners and friends are too, and we appreciate you very, very much. And I'll see you at the bank at 2:30. See if you can break the bank.
Yeah, well, hopefully CapEd isn't listening right now. Thank you, Reverend Bill.
God bless you, Kevin. Thanks.
God bless you, Reverend Bill. Coming up, more of your phone calls. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Rolling out to Tea Party Bob with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Miller. How are you today?
Not bad, and you?
Well, I'm enjoying a beautiful view out on the Meadows Valley and about 500 acres with cattle all over the place.
So you've officially relocated to New Meadows.
Yes, it's kind of an interesting place to be, let me tell you, especially with all the hustle and bustle I know that goes on down in the city. And I have to say, I finally agree with something that the real Steve said, and nice to have him back, I guess. We like to have a little controversy every now and then. I wanted to just speak quickly about the vaccines that nobody seemed to want to talk about this morning. Everybody seems to forget that in 1986 they passed the Vaccine Act, and that act was passed because of the many cases of problems they had with vaccines, and people could not find any recourse, so the government took over the vaccine industry in terms of liability. So nowadays, the vaccine industry doesn't have any liability, but yet the children are required to get almost 59 shots between the time they're born and the time they're 18. So they keep pumping all this stuff into them, but nobody seems to have the liability except the government. And if you sue the government, you're not going to get paid back anyway. So 20,000 people sued them. 6,000 people have actually been paid. And only 1% of the vaccine problems are ever reported. So I will say that the doctors and the pediatricians are on a big rant here, but it should still be left up to the parents to make the decision as to what is put into their children's bodies and their own bodies. This is freedom, and that's what we need. And every time they take another freedom away from us, we lose a little bit more of our American lives that we've had for years.
So you believe, though, that parents should have the right to just say, look, my kid's not getting vaccinated, and there's nothing the schools can do about it.
Exactly. I mean, this is the way it should be. Parents have control of their children. Do we want the government to control our children also? I mean, that's the question.
I think we want the government to control you.
You agree with me or not?
I think we should want the government to control you personally.
Well, that's not going to happen. But hey, congratulations, by the way, on a great fundraiser for the rescue mission. And I hope you guys have literally millions of dollars when you count the pennies today.
Well, I think we have millions of pennies, but we miss you, and so you're permanently up there now, huh?
Well, I've got to come down one more time today to collect all of my cactus plants and bring them up here. So, yeah, I guess I'm going to be officially up here as of tomorrow.
Tea Party Bob, we appreciate you, brother.
Thank you, my friend. You have a great day.
Thank you. Traffic and weather together, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave. Terry and Cuna, good morning.
Good morning, Kevin. Although I did not know Bill Buckner personally, growing up as a kid, even though he was only a few years older than I am, I loved him as a Dodger. I always thought he was a class act. He always presented himself that way. I hated it when the Dodgers traded him away. But the best thing I heard about Bill Buckner was that he was a Christian, and that does mend a broken heart in his passing.
God bless, Terry. Great call. Good morning.